Hi, everyone. This is Kate Stevens. Welcome back to another episode of the Omnichannel Marketer. Today, I'm excited to have Michael Wieder on the show, co-founder of Lalo. Michael, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you on. I'm actually, both a fan of the brand personally. My daughter, we have your Lalo chair, but, would love to hear a little bit more about your inspiration. What's your background and your inspiration for Lalo?
Yeah. So my background and my co-founder's background, neither of us were in product or baby or any of that before. So my background, personally, I started my career in sports and entertainment. I was a music manager, a sports agent. I produced events, did talent buying at South by Southwest for big brands, things like that. I was an entrepreneur. I owned my own company before becoming a sports agent. That was my first business. I started in college, managing musicians, producing events. I became a sports agent, left that to get back into my entrepreneurial roots. Started a fitness tech company that I bootstrapped and did on my own, kind of testing out a theory. It was a ClassPass competitor based in New York. And then left that and joined an early stage startup called Way Up at the time. And that's where I met Greg, my co-founder. He was employee number 4. I was employee number 5. I was there for just over 3 years, all the way through Series B. Greg had left and went on to Artsy, where he was their VP of partnerships. And then we relinked up for Lalo. And that was, now is probably about 6 years ago, where it was the seed of an idea. And we're coming up on our 4th birthday as a public brand and since launch. But, the seed of an idea started, a couple years before we actually brought it to the world.
And talk to me about where that idea came from and, a little bit more about Lalo as a brand.
Yeah. So it really started, Greg and I both at the time didn't have children. So we both now have 2 children, which is very exciting. But at the time we saw friends and family kind of going through this process and this huge life step. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to be there really soon. And this seems crazy. Like, they're buying so much stuff. They don't even know what they're buying, how much it costs, when they need to use it. And we don't know any of the brands going into it. So we started diving in and we felt there was a disconnect between the way the brands were interacting with the customers, the stories they were telling, and the way, that ultimately the service they were providing. It was really focused on products. It was focused on kind of selling anxiety and, your kid's not going to sleep unless you buy this, or they're not going to eat unless you buy that. And there were these these special products. And that was it. It was like the best for this, the best for that. And no one shops like that for anything. So we're like, this is backwards. We got to fix this. And we dove into it and we started surveying, parents. At the time, we were able to look at that very objectively and kind of look at different people's opinions and kind of piece it all together to find the common threads of truth and ultimately kind of create the thesis around building our brand. And that was really where we started first. Was the white space was about the connection between the brand and consumer. It wasn't about a single product. And that kind of helped create the vision of what we were building.
And so, how did you think about acting on that white space?
So I think at the beginning, one thing that's really interesting is that in talking to people in the startup world, especially in the consumer brand world and D2C world, so to speak, or digitally native brands, so many people at that time were like, what branding agency are you going to work to? Who's going to write the manifesto and the brand guidelines and all this? And we were like, what are you talking about? And we really uncovered at that point that founders need to be able to tell the story. Like, you need to be able to define the brand and tell the story. Paying someone 6 figures to put some stuff into a PDF for you does not build a business plan or a brand. So, we took meetings with all those fancy agencies and got to hear their brilliant minds speak, not to knock them. There are some really smart, creative people that work there, but it helped fuel the way that we wanted to articulate the brand that we were creating. And ultimately, we needed to feel really good about what we were building and how we were going to articulate it to the customer. So, that's kind of how we got started. And really, it goes back to that anxiety. We said, okay, all these brands are building through, selling on this anxiety, building up this parental anxiety. We're going to sell through love. We're going to build connection. We're going to be about love, celebrating milestones and the memories that we're here for. We're not going to be all about the medical, all of those nuts and bolts and things that build up fear and anxiety. We were about building trust and love for the brand.
I love that. So your exact same word. And there are so many special moments of love that, parents experience with, their babies. I can definitely relate to that. So, using that, what's the state of the business today? And, how do you see things growing from there?
Yeah. So over the last 4 years, we've grown a ton. The first year was definitely exciting. And, we definitely felt like we accomplished a lot, but looking back, we certainly accomplished nothing. But it's good to remember to celebrate all along the way. Because, I was recently talking to someone who let me know a stat that 1% of businesses reach $7 million in 7 years. So I think it's important that any business starting out, keep that in mind, that if you ever make $7 million, you're in the top 1%. So I think that's a perspective that gets lost a lot, especially when you're in like a venture-backed world or, world of hustling founders. And so, we've grown a ton. We've far surpassed any expectation of where we would be. Last year, we launched 29 products. It's unbelievable to think that we have such a large catalog at this point when, just about 2 years ago, we basically had 3 products, basically our play chairs and our play table. So we've launched so much to be able to stay with our customer and continue to grow with them. And that's kind of where we've been focused, is how do we continue to grow with our customer to be there for more memories and more milestones, because there is so much to celebrate.
So, you're a digitally native brand. You launched D2C first. Why did you pick that channel first? And, how do you think about channel expansion from there?
Yeah. So for us, it was about building the connection with the customer. There's no way to do that if you're not directly talking to the customer. And to us, that's the advantage of D2C. It's not about cutting out the middleman. It's not about lower price. It's none of that, because as you're seeing now, all those companies that did take that approach, they're now margin strapped and are going to never find profitability, or they're going to have to dramatically increase prices, and then kind of the advantage that they had in the market goes away. So for us, it was really about building connection, and being D2C first was the way that we were able to build a strong brand. Now, we also understand that our customer doesn't just shop at Lalo, right? So we have a really strong partnership with Babylist, which is the fastest growing online baby registry. 1 in 2 new parents register on Babylist. So we know we can capture 50% of new parent market by having a strong relationship with Babylist. But we also know that people don't just register on Babylist. So, as we think about channel expansion, it's where can we be to be selling products to parents, but also to their gift givers, because gifting is so important in our space. And we also, a big audience for us is grandparents. Grandparents love to buy things for their grandkids. So, where do grandparents shop? Where do they feel comfortable shopping? Where do they trust putting their credit card information? Those kinds of things are different through generations. So, it has us looking at different channels and different retailers and things like that. But for us, it's always about the timing of it. We've been approached for years from different retailers and have turned plenty of people down.
And how do you think about the timing?
For us, it's a little bit about brand scale, market share, brand awareness. If you think of a channel, let's just use Amazon as an example. So more shopping searches start on Amazon than Google, right? So just like Google, though, if you don't have organic search traffic going into a channel, it's going to be a lot harder to scale. But if you have that organic search traffic, you're going to have to put less into marketing, less into advertising on that channel. So for us, being able to, launch different channels when there already is velocity around the brand, it allows us to scale quicker. So for us, that's been scale more efficiently as well, right? Pour less dollars in on the paid media side.
And so, as you're building this omni-channel brand on Babylist, on D2C, in the future, how do you think about maintaining a consistent end-to-end brand experience with your customer?
Yeah, so I think for us, brand experience doesn't just happen on the internet. It may start on the internet, but it starts well before they decide to purchase. So for us, it's very circular, right? Because for our product and our customer, the power of word of mouth, I think, is amplified beyond any other category, because where most parents, first-time parents in particular, start their shopping experience is by asking a friend or family member. It's one step ahead of them. What do I need? What brand? What should I be looking at? Do you have your list of that conversation happens every day, especially between moms. So for us, that brand experience, we need to make sure that every customer and everybody who hasn't, even people who haven't bought, have had a positive experience or a positive association with the Lalo brand. So by doing that, we come up in conversation. I love hearing stories of my friend, they bought this other high chair, but they told me to check out yours. They would have bought it if they had decided, if they had changed their mind, or if they didn't get this other one as a gift. I love that, because that means we're resonating with people that don't have our number one best-selling product, that they're going to come in for something else, that they're following along, that they're helping our flywheel of efficient growth happen, even not as a customer. And that speaks to what we've built as a brand. So the touch points begin, online. the imagery, the social media, the advertising, but it also comes through in the videos we make to help with assembly. How we think about producing product, even the product development side, can we give one extra piece assembled, or can we do something that makes it easier when it arrives so that, when you have, especially if you're doing it with a child, like you don't want anything else to add frustration to your life. So we think about that a lot, and it comes through in everything we do. And then of course, in our customer experience, our support, and how we're there. If someone does have an issue or a problem with a shipment, a product, assembly, how we show up for them is, I would put Lalo against any brand in the way we show up. And I think we would win that 10 times out of 10.
And so I don't always interview customers, but you guys are a Bridge customer. How do you think about Bridge playing into this end-to-end customer experience that you're building?
Yeah, I think it comes down to ease. So, can we make the experience easier, whether that be for assembly, whether that be for product registration, whether that be for exploring and finding new products that you're going to need, right? So we understand that people may not have been exposed to our full catalog of product when they decided they wanted the high chair. Maybe that's the only thing they got exposed to, and they were only like looking through lists of top high chairs, and they kept seeing our high chair, but they didn't know we made bath products or playtime products or other items for your home. And all of a sudden now they got the high chair, and they're like, oh, they also have a splat mat and some tableware, and oh, I can add that really easily. So the ease of that experience is definitely enabled by Bridge.
So thank you. I'm excited to hear about that. You're my first baby brand that I've interviewed, and I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into, any specificities around kind of the registry market. I know it's specific like to Babylist that you're on, but registry is such a huge component, as a new mom, of how people buy, their baby products. So what is unique about kind of the registry world, and how do you guys think about being successful on registry?
So the most unique thing is that the buyer, the person that swipes their credit card, is not usually the end user. The other thing is that people edit their registry. So just because you're added to a registry doesn't mean you will make it to the end. Also the time frame. So people start building their registry sometimes from the day they find out they're pregnant. Some people will start it even before when they're trying. That's an edge case. But usually they're starting to build a registry between their first and second trimester. And then by their third trimester, that's when most of the gifts are being purchased, usually leading up to a baby shower or birth, however you're expecting your child. But, that's the predominant way, the majority. So we have to work on capturing that person way ahead of the purchase. And then the purchase isn't even happening by then. So how do we close that loop is really hard. Finding out who that person is and bringing them back into our ecosystem, can be harder. We have to do we look through the data to kind of understand who might actually be a repeat customer. We have people that come in and their first purchase is for an extra cushion. We're like, wait, they never bought a high chair before, but obviously they received it as a gift. So that's certainly a really tricky nuance, is kind of connecting the data and attribution and, understanding, who is that person. But there's, incredible stats about, that for us, parents are older than ever. The average age of a first-time mother is now 27.3. That's an all-time high. Birth rates have been reported to be falling, which is so untrue. Birth rates of mothers 25 to 44 are up 5% in the last year. Where the reason birth rates have declined, quote unquote, in the media and in the news is because birth rates of teen pregnancies are way, 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 way down. So, I'll just say this as it is. Birth rates of people we want to be having kids is up, and birth rates of people that likely shouldn't be having kids is down. But it's so down that it's bringing the whole lot down. So that's really interesting for a brand like us, because income spending power is actually up because we have older parents in the mix.
So I recently received a text around, I just started my registry and I am so overwhelmed. I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard something similar to that. How is Lalo, seeking to fit into that problem that a new expecting parent has?
I'm understanding. So parents starting a registry or looking at products, most people shopping any other category have product education. I need to understand why this is better than that. Parents in our space have category education. What is a high chair? What is infant bathtub? What is that? I have no idea. What are the things I should even care about? If you're looking for new sets of pots and pans, this is an analogy my co-founder Greg loves, you've maybe cooked an omelet before. nonstick, not nonstick? Do you like ceramic? Do you like stainless? Like you have some idea, but you might be understanding why one is better than another, and or what price point you might want to fall into. But for parents, they have no clue at all. And, I think it's a brand duty to help understand that, not just sell their product.
Mm-hmm. So does that become part of your brand experience, educating the entire process for a new parent?
Absolutely. I mean, the type of content that we're starting to do more of and have always done from the beginning is to be there for support, not just in the products, but through the different experiences you go through as a parent. We just did a virtual event on starting solids that had over 1,200 people register. I mean, it's like people want information. They're starving for that information and that support. And to be a brand that's willing to give it for free is tremendous.
Are there, specific communities, whether it be on Facebook or, moms groups that you find avenues to reach your customers outside of, their traditional like social media?
Yeah, I think that there are absolutely tactics to find local communities. The idea of like a one-to-many approach is always a great way to market anything. It's super efficient, right? So infiltrating those groups can really be done in two ways. One is through guerrilla marketing. The other is through great experience and great product and, letting the brand speak for itself so that your customers just become advocates. And I think, there have been times that both have been, or at least the first has been put into play, especially early on when you don't have that awareness. But now, any mom's group that is asking for high chair recommendations, there's no doubt Lalo is going to show up quite a bit.
Has there been any, failures or missteps that you've taken at Lalo that you feel like you can learn from and that others could learn from?
Yeah. I mean, there's no business that hasn't had a failure, right? I think in the early days, the hardest part is inventory management. And, we had it on both sides, buying too much of a product, buying too little of a product. And both can be really crippling to a business, depending on your stage. But certainly being out of stock or not buying enough into your demand actually is way more expensive to a business that has the capital to buy the inventory. Is way more expensive to be out of stock than in stock with a few extra units. Now there's a few extra units and then there's buying extra, like 6 months of extra inventory. And we've done both, in our history. And I think, looking back, like getting really, really thoughtful and precise about inventory planning, which we've done in the recent years, like that has and will continue to change the business.
That makes complete sense. So as you think about, continuing to grow the brand, considering, the gifter, the grandparents, where do you see, Lalo in 5 years from a channel perspective?
Oh man, in 5 years. Well, I think our D2C will continue to remain a really, really, really strong channel for us. I think people want to interact with our brand. And I think as Gen Z becomes parents and millennials continue to have kids, that will continue to be a really, really strong channel for us. I think that there are other channels and other retailers that become really interesting plays for Lalo, as long as they're, brand aligned and understand the value. But for us, it's about reaching parents everywhere we can be. And then, I think that that can also change as we go international eventually.
Great. Okay. So what is something that you're bold or passionate about that you could share?
Oh man. As far as business, work?
It could be anything.
Oh man. I mean, I'm pretty
asking all the hard questions.
Yeah. As far as work, I mean, I'm like a time management efficiency junkie.
Tell me more. This is like a 2023 goal of mine.
Yeah. I consider a superpower, two things, the amount that I'm able to get done in a small amount of time and my ability to multitask. Now, every superpower has a weakness tied to it. And those, there are certainly weaknesses that are, the opposite end of that same thing. But for me, anything that will take me less than 5 to 10 minutes, I just do. I don't add it to a to-do list. Someone needs me to jump in and edit a piece of creative, I just do it. The other thing that helps with my efficiency is that I like to learn new skills so that I'm adequate to help pull things off my team's plate. So whether that's learning tools like Figma, Photoshop, Illustrator, Excel, CSS, SQL, you name it, like I will commit to learning those things so that, I can be self-sufficient and be able to not just bark orders, but, contribute and be an executor, be an individual contributor. The other thing is I'm absolutely inbox zero. Like I do not ever let my inbox go up high, and my anxiety will go up if I see it really get above 30. So I'm always on top. I don't let things dangle out there for more than 24 hours.
Do you have any like sorting tools, or do you use any like Superhuman, anything like that for your inbox zero?
No. I mean, I do. I use like, I filter my inbox by unread and read. Mm-hmm. I archive a ton of stuff. I'll set up some rules to keep certain things out of my inbox. I try to unsubscribe from things that get, that just end up in there. It's really hard right after like you have a big piece of press and then all the salespeople come out of the woodwork. Yesterday we were named to Fast Company's most innovative companies list. Like, today, my inbox is like a bajillion emails all trying to sell me some SaaS solution. But yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I'm on it in between, as I'm walking my dog, I'm clearing things out. I'm answering things. I'm voice messaging, voice typing if I can. It's just, don't try to, I don't like it to add up. It just like allows me to focus and also separate work and personal time too, as much as possible.
I love that. I'm aspiring to inbox zero, so I will take some inspiration from you. Okay, moving into our lightning round. What is your favorite omni-channel brand?
I think this counts, Buck Mason. I think that their online and their own retail experience is as good as it gets.
Of course it counts. Thing you wish you could change about our industry?
Comparisons. Stop comparing yourself to another brand. We did this all the time, especially early. It's like, no, that brand is 3 years ahead of where we are. Like, stop looking at that. They're not the inspiration. Like, they can be what we aspire to, but they're not like a point of comparison.
Favorite podcast?
I don't know if I have one right now. I've gone through different phases. I like to keep up on my Michigan football through podcasts, so I listen to that stuff.
Sounds like the kind of podcast my husband listens to. Favorite newsletter?
Also not a huge newsletter guy, but I do like Nick Sharma's newsletter. I skim it. And I think he's got really good palatable tips for any marketer out there.
What is your favorite social media channel?
I'm addicted to TikTok. Period. So good.
So good. A favorite book?
My favorite book is a book called Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande.
And does that have anything to do with like being good with time management?
It actually doesn't. It's less about time management and it's more about avoiding catastrophic mistakes.
Ooh, okay. And are you planning on going to any events this year that you're excited about?
2, I'm excited to get back, and hopefully it will be better than ever, to like the big global baby show in Germany called Kinderjugend. And I hope that I'll be attending Michigan in the national championship game this year.
Love it. Where can people connect with you, Michael?
On Twitter at @mweeder. That's the best place to connect with me personally. And then, of course, at Lalo on Instagram, meetlalo.com. That's it.
Awesome. Michael, it was so great learning about Lalo and your journey. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Kate.
If you liked this podcast, follow me and The Bridge page on LinkedIn and Twitter for hot takes and tactical advice. If you really loved today's episode, we'd love a review on the podcasting platform of your choice, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thanks for listening.